Hello everyone, and welcome to my long-awaited 10 HP Slayer guide. So before I get into this, it's worth mentioning that you will need 85 combat to use this guide because we will be using Neve. Also, if I make any errors, please make sure you read the description because I'll put all the corrections there. With that being said, let's get right into the guide. So there's a lot of information that I need to cover in this Slayer guide, so I went ahead and split the guide into 5 parts. The first being tasks, quests, rewards, and block lists. 2 being gear and inventory, 3 being XP rates, 4 being canon locations, and 5 being a tips/summary. I have the timestamps on the screen right now, so if you want to skip to a certain part of the guide, feel free to click there. Now let's get on with the first part of the Slayer guide, which is tasks, quests, rewards, and block lists. So this is a spreadsheet that me and some other 10 HPs made, and it has a lot of information, and I just want to go through everything and explain everything in detail. So the first thing I'm looking at is the left column that says task. Those are all the tasks that Neve can assign. And then if you go to the right one column, you see possible. This is simply what it says. Is the task possible for a 10 HP account? It is yes or no. Now the third column says information, and this is what I want to talk about. So I'm going to go through every single task and say what I need to say about it. So Aberrant Spectres is unlocked by Priest in Peril, and although it's an alright task, you shouldn't do Priest in Peril. Abyssal Demons are not possible, and they are also unlocked by Priest in Peril. Once again, do not do Priest in Peril. Ankus, they are possible, and they are a decent task. That is why there is a check mark in the information. Aviancies are not possible, so you should not unlock the task. Black Demons, yes, check mark. Black Dragons, yes, check mark. Bloodvelds, they are an amazing task, but unfortunately you should not complete Priest in Peril, so you won't have them unlocked. Blue Dragons, yes, with a check mark. Boss task, it's not good XP an hour, and that's all this guide is going to be focusing on, so although some are possible and some are not, you should not unlock this task. Brine Rats are not possible because you cannot do Olaf's quest. Cave Horrors are possible and can be canoned, but this is a very interesting task. So to complete Cabin Fever, you have to complete Big Chompy Bird Hunting, which if you were to complete it, it would give you, I believe it was 16 or 17 HP XP. And first off, it's HP XP. You don't want HP XP at all. And Cave Horrors would not be a good task to canon whatsoever. So that is a do not complete Cabin Fever. Cave Kraken is possible, but you cannot do the boss, only the little guys, and your cannon will only hit 1s and 2s, so overall it is a very shit task. Dagonauts are possible, they have a check mark. You should complete Horror from the Deep to unlock this task, because it is the best task that a 10 HP can do. Dark Beasts are not possible because we cannot do Morning Ends Part 2. Dust Devils are possible, and they are a decent task, but you shouldn't complete Desert Treasure, or I shouldn't say you shouldn't complete Desert Treasure, but Desert Treasure has a quest requirement, which is Priest in Peril, which you shouldn't do. So Dust Devils you should not have unlocked. Elves, they are possible, but you should not do Regicide because they are not a very good task. Fire Giants, yes, with a check mark. Gargoyles are not possible, and you should not do Priest in Peril anyway. Greater Demons, Hellhounds, Iron Dragons, and Calphites are all a check mark. Caress are not possible, and it says RIP because there is nothing you can do to prevent getting these tasks. You are just going to get stuck with them. Lizardmen are possible, and there's a check mark, so you should unlock this task. They are great XP an hour. Mythal Dragons are not possible, and you should not unlock that task. Mutated Zygomites are possible, but you should not complete Lost City because they are not good XP an hour. Necreal, not possible. Once again, do not complete Priest in Peril. Red Dragons are possible, but you should not unlock the task, bad XP. Same for Scabberites, they are possible. The quest Contact is first off extremely hard, and you would need to get HP XP to complete it, and even if you were to complete it, you would have to kill the Scabberites in a single zone, which would be very bad XP an hour. Skeletal Wyverns are not possible, and they are another RIP task, which means there is nothing you can do to prevent them. They are just simply impossible. Smoke Devils, yes, with a check. Spiritual creatures are not possible, so this means you should not do Deathblood Toad to unlock them. Steel Dragon, yes, checkmark. Sukwas are not possible because you cannot complete Lunar Isles. Troll task, yes, checkmark. Turath, once again, is another task that you're just going to get stuck with. They're not possible, and there's nothing you can do to prevent that. And finally, the Tazar task. It is a task that you have to unlock, and you can only do Jad. You cannot cannon these smaller guys. So if you are going for a high XP an hour, I wouldn't recommend unlocking this task. But it is possible, and it does have a check mark because it is an option if you want to do Jad. So there is the first 3 columns talked about. I know that was a lot of information to take in, but this summary helps clear everything up and put everything into an easier format. So first off, the quest to complete. Horror from the Deep unlocks Dagannoths, and you should definitely complete that quest. The 6 quests that you should avoid are Cabin Fever, Contact, Death Plateau, Lost City, Priest in Peril, and Regicide. The tasks you should unlock are Lizardmen and Tazar. Obviously Tazar is optional because you can only do Jad and it's not the greatest XP, but it's an option. Tasks you shouldn't unlock, which is obviously self-explanatory, but AVNCs, boss tasks, Mythal Dragons, and Red Dragons. The 2 tasks that you should extend are Black Demons and Bloodvelds. Obviously you shouldn't have Bloodvelds unlocked because it's a Priest in Peril task, but if you have done Priest in Peril, you should extend Bloodvelds. So there are 3 tasks that are impossible, but there are other tasks that are impossible if you haven't done the right thing so far. So, Kurask, Skeletal Wyverns, and Turath are the 3 tasks that no matter what you do are always going to be impossible. And then there are 6 other tasks that can be unlocked, whether it's unlocking the task or doing a quest you shouldn't. So that is Abyssal Demons through Priest in Peril, AVNCs from unlocking the task, Gargoyles from Priest in Peril, Mythal Dragons from a task, Necrio from Priest in Peril, and Spiritual Creatures from Death Plateau. So obviously do not complete Priest in Peril or Death Plateau as stated above, and don't unlock Mythal Dragons or AVNCs. So the superior encounters, there's only 3 superior encounters a 10 HP peer can do, and that is Dust Devils, Bloodvelds, and Aberrant Spectres. Now if you didn't notice, these 3 all require Priest in Peril to unlock. Okay. So if you have completed Priest in Peril, which you shouldn't, but if you have, you should unlock superior encounters. But if you haven't done Priest in Peril, do not even bother unlocking superior encounters, because obviously you won't get any. If you have done all of the things I have said earlier perfectly, then you will only have 3 impossible tasks like we talked about, Kurask, Skeletal Wyvern, and Turath. You will only have 16 possible tasks, which are Enku, Cave Kraken, Black Demon, Black Dragon, Blue Dragon, Dagannoth, Fire Giant, Greater Demon, Hellhound, Iron Dragon, Calfight, Lizardman, Smoke Devil, Steel Dragon, Troll, and Tazar, only Jad, and once again it is optional. So if you see this thing in the bottom right, it says stack around 500 points before you do a quote-unquote quest to avoid. You make enough points to be able to do any quest you want, but you should stack points first to be safe. So what that means is you can do any quest. So in my case, I have done Priest in Peril, Death Plateau, Regicide. I've done like everything I shouldn't have, basically. And this isn't a huge deal, it just means I get some tasks that are, either impossible or just low XP an hour. But you make plenty of Slayer points to be able to skip tasks that are impossible or tasks that you simply don't want to do because of low XP rates. But I would just really recommend just always keeping around 500 points so that you don't get screwed over and get some task you can't do, and you just don't want to go there. So now that we've talked about the tasks, quests, and rewards, let's talk about the block list. So the block list is different for everybody, and it just depends on what quest or tasks you have unlocked. So in my case, since I have done Priest in Peril and Death Plateau, I have Abyssal Demons, Necrio, and Spiritual Creatures blocked. And the reason I have these 3 blocked is because out of all the tasks that are impossible for me, They are the 3 that have the highest probability of getting assigned. Since the tasks are in order of Neve's probability, all you need to do is simply go down the list, and whichever task that you see is impossible for you first, just block that one and continue on until you are out of block spaces. Let's now move on to part 2, which is gear and inventory. So the gear is all based off getting the highest attack bonus possible, since that is what a cannon's damage is based off of. For a 10 HP account, the highest attack bonus we can get is range, and that is what you are seeing on screen right now. If for some reason you have a very low range level when you start Slayer, and you have, say, high melees or high magic level, and you can get a higher attack bonus in something other than range, you may want to use this instead of range until you, of course, can get the max range gear. Just use whatever combat style gives you the highest attack bonus. So the max attack bonus for a 10 HP, once again, is range, and that is with a Armadyl helmet, an Armadyl chestplate, Armadyl chain skirt, Pegassian boots, Armadyl crossbow, Odium ward, the Armadyl bracers or any god bracers, the Archer's ring, the Ava's accumulator, and the Honorable Blessing doesn't actually affect your attack bonus, it just gives you a plus 1 prayer bonus, which obviously helps. And your inventory should be a cannon, a cake, prayer potion, a Slayer helmet, a Slayer ring, cannonballs, a rune pouch, gem pouch, and herb sack. In the rune pouch, I have the telly runes for a home telly, and I use this because after every task I go to the fountain and refill my stats, then use the Slayer ring to telly to Neve to get a new task. The reason I only have 1 cake and 1 prayer potion in my inventory is because for most basic tasks you won't need any food or any prayer potions, especially when you're 99 prayer. Just flicking protect from melee when you run to refill your cannon, you won't use enough prayer to have to use a prayer potion in one task, and since I refill my prayer after every task in my house, I don't need any prayer potions. If I get a task such as Dagonos or Calphites or something where I need more items from my bank, I will grab them before I go. I should also mention that whenever I have a task that I need to tank things, when there is something attacking me with 2 different attack styles, I will grab a Serp helm and Dragon plate legs and wear those instead of an Armadyl helmet and an Armadyl chain skirt. This way I have a higher defense bonus and have a less chance of dying. If you are rich as fuck and want to increase your XP rates just slightly more, you can pray Eagle Eye the entire time your cannon is going off, and that will slightly increase your cannon damage. I have never used Eagle Eye in any of my XP rates or at all during Slayer, so don't base anything in this guide off using Eagle Eye. I don't have that kind of money. With that being said, let's move on to the XP rates of all the tasks. This list contains all the possible tasks that a 10 HP peer can do. On this list, you'll notice that there are some tasks that shouldn't be on here if you have done things perfectly, such as Aberrant Spectres, Bloodvelds, Elves, and tasks like that. You'll also notice that some tasks have a period next to their average Slayer experience an hour. This means that Slayer experience an hour is so bad, I just never did it. So Cave Kraken, your cannon only hits 1s and 2s, terrible task. Iron and Steel Dragons explain for themselves, and Mutated Zygomites, I haven't done Lost City because that quest, or excuse me, not that quest, that task is just complete shit. So, you'll also notice under Smoke Devil, it says 30k plus an hour question mark. That's because obviously I'm not 93 Slayer yet, and I really don't have plans to train Slayer to 93, otherwise I would wait to make this video until then. But to be honest, I really don't know when I'm going to get 93 Slayer, if I will ever get 93 Slayer, so I didn't want to delay the entire video just for a Smoke Devil XP an hour. Just know that Smoke Devils are a very good task, and you can be expecting 30k an hour minimum, probably even more. I also want to mention that for the Jad task, you get a 25k Slayer experience reward from killing Jad, and the fight cave takes around 5 hours to 5.5 hours to complete. However, you also get some experience from killing the monsters throughout the waves, like going through the fight cave, so I'm pretty sure the XP an hour is more than 5k, but I will never be doing probably another Jad kill again, so I didn't bother actually calculating it. But just know that you shouldn't be doing Jad unless you are going for a pet or a fire cape. So if I were to continue to do Slayer and I was looking at what tasks I would want to skip, I think the only 2 tasks that I would mainly skip would be Greater Demons and Elves. I would also test Elves more to see if the average goes up over time, because as you can see, my last Elf task I did 22k an hour. It's just like Smoke Devils. I don't know how much more Slayer, or if I ever will train Slayer really anymore in the future. So I'm not gonna have any more rates other than these right here. Another thing I didn't mention is that these are my Slayer rates. So although you can expect around here, I mean, you might get something different. You might get lower, might a little higher, depending on your range bonus, cannon locations. There's a lot that goes into it. So just know that this is an average Slayer experience hour and they're my rates. So yours might be a little bit different. Continuing the discussion about experience rates, let's move on to the cannon locations. 2 things I want to mention before I show all the locations is that I do not have a location for Cave Kraken, Iron Dragon, Mutated Zygomites, Smoke Devil, or Steel Dragons. Also, pay attention to where I'm standing, not only where the cannon is, because where you stand also affects how the cannon hits the monsters. So with that being said, enjoy the locations. Now to end the Slayer guide, I'm going to go over some extra tips and summarize all the important parts of the guide. Alright, so the Slayer helmet does not affect the cannon, it's purely cosmetic for us. So basically, if you don't have a Slayer helm, you can use a nose peg to run through Neve's dungeon. The cannon is based off the highest attack bonus, and that highest attack bonus for a 10 HP is range. If you need to remember what the max range gear is, you can go back earlier in the video to see that. If you are going to spend points on anything, I would recommend unlocking Slayer rings first, then unlock and extend tasks. Whenever you're using a cannon, always find a safe spot so that your cannon can hit multiple enemies at once, as you can see here with the Blood Velds. Always make sure you stack 500 plus points, especially if you're going to be completing a quest that unlocks an impossible task or a task with bad XP an hour, because you don't want to get stuck with stupid shitty tasks. Another way you can increase XP an hour on tasks such as Greater Demons, where it takes forever sometimes for your cannon to hit monsters, is you can cast Curse to aggro monsters so they come to the spot where your cannon can hit them. This is especially good for Greater Demons task and can significantly increase your XP an hour. I'd recommend using OS Buddy or Conduit so you can see how many cannonballs are left in your cannon. If you have 99 Prey, you normally won't have to use any doses of prayer potions if you recharge your prayer at the end of every task. Of course, this is an exception for tasks where you have to pray constantly, such as Dagannoths or Cow fights. If you get stuck with a task that is impossible to do, you can either recoil and venom the entire task, where you will only get half the Slayer experience per kill, or if you get a task such as Banshees, where if you recoil and their health regenerates so fast you can't recoil them to death, you can have an alt venom the Banshee first, then splash to re-aggro the Banshee, and then just let him die while you are splashing him, and it should count as your kill. This way, even if you get an impossible task, you'll still be able to complete it even though it's bad XP an hour. But no matter how bad the XP is, it's better than getting stuck and not being able to do anything with Slayer. If you just started Slayer at Neve and your task streak isn't very long and you get an impossible task, you could reset your task at the birth rope guy if you don't want to go through all the time of recoiling venoming. Overall, you can expect to use anywhere from 1.3 to 1.5 mil plus cannonballs for 99 Slayer at Neve. It really just depends on what tasks you do and what kind of gear you are using, but that can definitely range a lot, but expect to be somewhere around there. Although that does sound like quite a few cannonballs, you definitely do not have to buy them all at once. When I was doing Slayer, I was runecrafting on an alt, and what I would do is I would buy about 50,000 cannonballs, give or take, and then I would runecraft on my alt while I was doing Slayer. Since 10 HP Slayer is very AFK and it's very easy to play on an alt, and I was making about double the money I was spending in cannonballs just runecrafting on a different account. So that way I was easily able to afford my cannonballs without waiting to just buy all the cannonballs at once. So definitely merch or play on a different account or do something to make money on the side while you are slaying. So that is going to wrap up my 10 HP Slayer guide. I hope it helped some of you guys out, and I hope you guys learned a little bit more about Slayer on a 10 HP account. Make sure you look at the description once this video is done to make sure I didn't make any mistakes, and if I didn't make any mistakes, all the corrections will be down there. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the video and things I could do differently, and I'll see you guys in the next one.